All right, Fief. Okay, I'm going to do my final thoughts. You're probably looking here and go, well, the board's empty. Well, it is. The other night, my girlfriend was over, Elena, and we were not here in this room. She went and she said, oh, your pieces flew off the board. Yeah, they did. I left the sliding door cracked. A little storm came through. Well, kind of a big storm, but and blew the pieces down and a little bit of water on it, but it's fine. It wasn't enough to damage the components or anything. I thought about, I probably could have just reset what was blown off because not everything was dislocated off the board, but I decided not to because, playing a heavy negotiation game like this, Solitaire, isn't really that enjoyable for me to do. And this is a, primarily a negotiations and negotiation game, diplomatic game, whatever you want to call it. So, obviously it shines with, multiple players. So rather than resetting it up or going through the rest of it, I think I gave a good kind of idea of how the game works and how it plays. So then I'd just give my thoughts and move on to something else. So what are my thoughts? Well, I'm doing this view now with my phone camera to video it, thanks to Jonathan Townsend. He said, hey, do it this way. It looks better. It probably does. So, like everything, I'm an idiot, and I should have been doing this probably way all along. But anyway, what are my thoughts? I'll go over the components first. A little disappointed with the components. These cards are all bendy and warped. And they're not, you can see there's, maybe you can't see, you can see there's wear on them. I mean, it's my first play and there's wear on them, I get in focus there. So that's disappointing. The map lays nice and flat, which is nice. But, some of the color choices are maybe not the best. It's kind of, when you have these down, it's kind of difficult sometimes. Okay, here I can see 4. Like to determine the different bishoprics, not a huge deal. There we go. There's the 5th bishopric, but it's a little bit of pain. But really, the components also suffer a lot because of the rules. And the rules in this game, pretty much everything's in there. I'm not going to say they're a mess, but they're not organized well, and it makes you wonder certain things. For example, like these bridges here. I'm like, oh, it's nice defensive positions, right? The bridges are going to, provide a benefit in combat. Well, at least as far as I can tell, they don't. But what makes it problematic is there's no section in the rules that discusses really the terrain except for the setup rules, which say, these are villages, these are roads, and these separate the bishoprics. So I'm looking through and going, well, are these important? Are these bridges important? Nah, they're not. At least as far as I can tell. If I got that wrong, let me know. That's kind of an issue. The cards, well, let's go to the player aids. The player aids are decent, especially, and there's one for, there's 6 of them, which is nice. They give one for each player, but they're kind of incomplete in some ways. The income phase, for example, and how taxation works isn't defined on them. And most notably, there's nothing about the cards in the game. So you get these, fortune cards, and you get something like this, and there's no explanation on it, and there's nothing in the player aids to tell you what to do. So you got to go, let me grab the rule book and try and find it, and then that becomes problematic too, because for some of these, like this card here, which is these are all your fortune cards. They're all the gray-backed ones. This is here in this section of the rules, but this guy is not. This one here is not. So then you gotta go, where's that one? And you flip through the rules, Okay, it's back here. Okay, and then you look and find it. And then this doesn't even tell you everything because it's got this symbol up here which tells you when you can play it. And that's not even described here. That's described back in the beginning of the rules. So, I mean, they're kind of a mess in that regard. And it doesn't make it very easy to play, especially if you're playing 6 players. If somebody's like, I gotta see the rule book, they're like, oh, I know, they got one of these cards, right? So that's kind of a disappointment on these. Otherwise, I mean, nice player aid cards. They're big, they're nice, colorful. The elections on them are good too, for the most part. But again, I'll go back to the rules and show you a section here of why the rules are kind of frustrating experience. So you get to election, and you have, okay, bishop's elections, and it gives you all the rules here. And it seems, okay, that's straightforward enough. And then you go, then you go, oh, here's the example. Okay, that's great. Then you go here. Okay, that's great. Good. And there's another example. And then down here, after all that, you go, if more than one bishop tile is up for election, each election is held separately, beginning with the lowest number of bishopric. If a bishop's title, blah, 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 and then it says you can't use the same bishop that's elected to vote. And so you have these kind of rules that are broken up with examples that break up the rules themselves, which is annoying and just not a good way to have it. Likewise, you have these Fief elections, or, you get Fief and it'll tell you, I think there's a section, where is it? Which will tell you the Fief titles. And then there's another section all the way back here that tells you how you lose them, And so, it's not all put together well. It's not organized at all. It's easy to just say, hey, here's a Fief title, and here's all the rules for it. Here's the election, all the rules for it. Things are broken up. Here's the cards. Here's all the rules for the cards. However, I say they're just disorganized. Everything's in there. I didn't have a problem eventually finding everything. So in that regard, the rules are fine. There's not things missing or things that are, not in there. It's just they're not organized well. And when you play a game like this, which is going to be a 6-player game, or, you can play it with 3 to 6, which is a heavy diplomatic game, you're probably going to have players who aren't familiar with the game. And so the rules, the player aids, the map, none of it makes it easy to do that. So in that regard, it's a bit of a disappointment there, or, whatever it is. But my main gripes with the game are that all the factions are the same. There's no differentiation. So, I made the comparison to Dune where it has this thing that Dune has where you win. It's easier to win with an alliance. And the alliance rules themselves are, really a cool part of the game. Cool, a well done part of the game, and how they work with the marriages. And I like that a lot. And I like the fact that, while female lords have some disadvantages in the game, they're really important to have. Because there's a 2-to-1 difference between males and females, you want to get those female lords because there's so few of them out there, and you can't have an alliance without one. Also, combine that with the Diarch card, where you can get the best military leader in the game and have a huge advantage with that. So I like how that does that. There is that asymmetry between the males and female lords. That's what I like, but the rest of the game doesn't have that. The factions don't have it. The lords themselves, they're all the same. I mean, the females are slightly different than males, but there's no, this guy looks like a badass, so does that guy, and then you get, this guy who looks like he's, tending the vineyards out back or whatever. And you'd think, oh man, he's probably good at collecting taxes. He's probably good at combat. But no, they're all the same. And that's really kind of my gripe with the game, is that it's very generic in feel. Unlike Dune, which has, all the factions are different. They all play differently. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Even the leaders among the factions, have different strengths and abilities, right? And this just doesn't have it. And that's really, really, my main issue with the game. Now, I'm sure the game, if you get 6 people to play it, or 4 or 5, I'd imagine you'd want 5 or 6 to play this. Could be a good deal of fun in a negotiation game, but like any negotiation-heavy diplomacy game, it's going to depend on the people. And that's how these games operate. If you have a good group of people, this would be a fun game, Now the question is, would I play this over Dune? And the answer is no, I'd rather play Dune than this. Would I play this over something like a Here I Stand? No, because Here I Stand is not as heavy in the negotiation diplomacy as this, but has that flavor of historical backdrop on it that kind of drives your action as the individual powers, which you don't have here. Other negotiation games tend to have that more asymmetrical approach, and this one doesn't. And so while I wouldn't say, hey, don't get it, or don't play it, I'm sure you could have a lot of fun with this, but I just wish it had more flavor, more detail. I mean, everything's very simplistic in this game. The movement, the combat, the elections, everything's simplistic, and that's not terrible, but it doesn't invoke any sense of medieval France to me, medieval warfare, anything like that. Even things like, they captured a lord up here. Well, they are immediately ransomed the next turn. There is no, hey, I'm going to hold on to him. I'm going to, you're going to have to give me something else to get, the guy I captured back. Nah, they're just immediately ransomed for money. And it's not even a choice. The other player has to do it. Things like, there was the marriage here, and I thought it was going to be a cool situation right before, which I was going to film, actually, or video right before the winds knocked the game down, where I think it was Blanche over here with White married the Fief titled lord of Blue, and then Plague hit, and that lord died. So I was like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. The white female, why she wanted to marry him was she'll get the Fief title. And then I read the rules. It's like, nah, as long as there's still a living lord in Blue, they'll keep the Fief title in the Blue family. And that, that was a disappointment. I was like, oh, I was hoping that would be really cool. And it's not. So, overall, it's probably not a game I'll ever probably play with a group of people unless somebody else suggests it, because like I said, there are other heavy diplomacy negotiation games that I think do a better job overall than this game does. This game to me just misses the feel of medieval France. It doesn't have the detail. Now, ironically, I went and I looked on Board Game Geek. This game's rated like a heavy or medium heavy game, and I don't get it. Well, I get it because of there's different kinds of more newer gamers as opposed to like those who grew up in the 70s, 80s, playing games. You're used to more detailed and complex mechanisms, and newer gamers tend to want very simple, straightforward mechanisms. This one, though, is simple and straightforward, so I still don't understand it. There's nothing complex about what you're doing. You move from one space to the other. You can move 2 spaces. You roll dice. You look, whatever. There's, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that's Fief. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. We'll see. I'm going to be on vacation, so probably go to a squad leader tournament in St. Louis, actually. I haven't been in a while. It's 20th anniversary of that. I've won it twice, so maybe I'll go, even though I suck at squad leader now because I don't play it anymore. Maybe I'll go down and visit my old friends. Again, not sure what I'm going to do next, but anyway, that is Fief.